Hello and welcome back to a chatty video with me, Lily Howe from GRO Coaching and Consulting Limited. And today I am joined by my two miniature Dachshunds. I have got Luna, who is here, and I've got Sausage, who you can just see the tip of his head down there. And what are we talking about, guys? So today we are going to talk about masculine and feminine energies. So first and foremost, I just want to caveat that by saying when I talk about masculine and feminine energies, I'm not at all in any way, shape or form discussing gender, your chosen gender or your sex. It's purely the terms that we use to put these particular traits into two different camps. So it's very much like yin and yang energy, masculine and feminine energies. So regardless of whether you identify as a man, a woman, or non-binary, or any gender, these are applicable to you regardless, and all of us will have both masculine and feminine energies within us. So I just wanted to start off by saying that. Now, today we're going to be talking a bit about what masculine and feminine energies are, what traits they hold, and also why we're even talking about this today, what comes up, my stories that I have witnessed from other people as well, and a little bit about society as a whole when we talk about this one. So it's quite a big, chunky topic, I think. So firstly, you may have heard people talk about masculine and feminine energies before. Like I said, it's very similar to the concept of yin and yang. So yin energy is typically feminine and yang energy is considered masculine. So there's lots of different terms to that people use this across all sorts of different spiritualities, beliefs, religions, etc. Now, what it relates to is masculine energy traits are things like logic, assertiveness, doing, goals, and feminine energy is more linked to the process, being, intuition, and connection. And essentially, why it's been coming up for me and why I wanted to do a bit of a talk about it, but also why many of the people that I speak to on Instagram wanted me to do a video about this, is because not many people really know what it means and also why it's so important to our well-being. So as I just said there around the traits that both masculine and feminine energies have, what can happen, and like I said before, we all have these energies within us regardless of our gender, and we can get out of balance with these energies. Now, I think what's really important to say at this point is I have been on my own journey with this, and I actually went to coaching unbeknownst to me, really, because I needed a lot of help with this balance. So shout out to Samantha Hadidi. She is my most wonderfulest hormones health coach, and she's also just a fantastic all-round human. So Sam, if you're watching, love you, and thank you so much for all your support on this. And since I've gone through my own coaching journey and then started coaching other people being qualified, I've realized this is a common theme that comes up again and again and again, specifically within women that I speak to. But like I said, that being said, this whole video is very much dedicated to any gender. So you might resonate with this across a lot of different reasons that we discussed today. So my personal story is that I've always been someone who is fiercely independent. So even when I was young, my mum and dad used to laugh at me so much for this because I was known for saying this phrase over and over again, which was "Lily, do it." So naturally, you can tell that I was very young when I coined that phrase. And essentially, I've always just been a doer. And that was probably before, so that was before I could even form a fully fledged sentence that I was saying those words from my mouth. And the truth is I've always been really praised for it. I'm always praised for the fact that I'm someone who takes action, is a goal getter, like wants to go out and do these things, thrives on high performance. And I think, a lot of my type A people out there might be smiling and being like, this sounds like me. And we'll get on to that. But it's definitely something that all throughout my life, through academia, into my working career, has always been something that I've been really praised on. And typically, I've always been more biased, I'd say, to my masculine traits. So the assertiveness, that sort of, maybe not as, logic doesn't resonate as much, but that sort of like assertive, doing, getting, that sort of energy has all been the energy that I've really embodied for a large proportion of my life. I'm only 31 now, so but so much of my life has been acting in that energy. And it's really interesting because, so many people I meet with are also in that space too. But anyway, going back to the story there. So one thing that it got me was burnout, basically. And in amongst lots of other different things that were taking place at the time, I got to a point where I had been relentlessly achieving, but for what? Like, I had got to a place in my career that was great, but was I particularly happy with that? Not really. Was it in a place where I really wanted to be? Psychologically, was I in a place where I really wanted to be? No. Did I feel like I had really got there because I really wanted to get there, or because I thought I should get there? And that was the next step, was the other thing. And a large part of me untangling everything that had gone on to get me to that point where I was quite literally in a state of like mild anxiety and depression was, and I don't really think I've even admitted that out loud, but I was really struggling for a while with it. And I was really struggling to get out of bed in the morning. I didn't even really feel like I had the energy to wash some days. Like, I just really did not feel myself. I felt so like broken down and very confused about how I'd got there. And it was all really just sort of crumbling around me in a lot of ways. And I'd started working with my coach, Sam, who I've already shouted out. And it was a really great opportunity to hold space for the fact that I have just been on a relentless schedule of doing and achieving and performing. And I came across a really brilliant term recently, which was performance dysmorphia, which was in relation to how people that would be type A people, again, I know that's a very generalizing term, but we use it and we all know what it means in society, so it's quite easy to use, will typically be those people that have performance dysmorphia. So no matter what you achieve, you're like, yeah, great, okay, but I want to achieve this bigger thing now. Or you don't spend enough time in the act of just being within that celebration, or even just in the act of the doing, like just enjoying that process of getting there. It's like, I must get to the next thing, and then. And yeah, so I started working with Sam, and I finally got to like unfurl the very tightly wound coil that I had become. And I'm sure many of you are listening to this and going, yes, this sounds a lot like me. And these terms then started to really take some meaning to me, so how was I really integrating that feminine energy that I had, and how could I bring that out? Because I so desperately wanted to just be in a state of being and receiving. So that's the other thing to note here. So masculine energy is giving, and feminine energy is receiving, and is receptivity as well. So the other thing that came up for me a lot is that throughout that period of achieving and doing, I was also giving so much of myself away. So giving myself to people that maybe weren't giving me the same back, giving myself to situations where maybe I didn't really need to, giving myself to tasks that I was doing just out of duty, as opposed to like, I really want to do this. And don't get me wrong, we all have things like that we have to do, but when it completely absorbs your life, then we need to look at that and go, right, why are we doing all these things? And also, do I need to do all these things, like me specifically? And so one of the things that I felt so deeply within my being was, I really just want to be in a position where I can just receive. I want to just be, slow down, receive. And I can just feel myself like softening as I even say those words. So I don't know if you feel the same watching this video. And that's it. So feminine energy, like I said, is all around that intuition, that feeling, connectivity, receptivity, receiving. And I think that, not all of us, but so many of us might feel like that's the part we're lacking. And I think in the societies that we live in, I'm coming to you from the UK, and it's January 2026, and we have quite a patriarchal society, to say the least. And we, in general, productivity is praised, outcomes are praised, and all these things have very valid reasons for being praised. And that doesn't make them good or bad. That's the other thing to mention. There's no good or bad in these traits, they just are. And it's when we get out of balance that these things can then be a problem. You could be too into your feminine traits as well, and that still be causing some problems too. So in the patriarchal society that we're in, a lot of the behaviors that are celebrated, even throughout younger life in schools and as you move into the workplace, are all about doing, achieving, going, relentlessly a bit. And there's not as much praise around taking some time out for yourself, having a day just because. And it's all like rest needs to be earned. And there's so many of these, like, and I hate to say this, but like Instagram bros who are like, you need to get up at 5 a.m. and you need to go do this 10K and then run an Ironman and rah, rah, rah. And you're just like, no, mate, I really don't, because actually I'm like crumbling apart in the inside. So anything that you say about me having to do more is going to actually snap me clean in two. So I think it's really important to be bringing this to a lot of people's attention. Just say, like, right now in this moment, take a really nice, just deep breath with me. And exhale that out. And just have a think with yourself. Which traits do I feel like I'm doing more of at the moment? And it's totally fine, whatever your answer is, okay? So it's just an exploration. What do you feel your traits align most to with masculine or feminine energies? Or do you feel really nice and balanced at the moment? Because, that's amazing if you feel like you've got those things down. And I must admit, from the work that I do and, even the work that I have done, like personal self-development work, so not just my day-to-day work, is that I feel like I'm in much better alignment with this, but it still is something that I feel needs like a regular check-in to make sure that we're not overdoing, overgiving, specifically because that's my tendencies. They're my predispositions to move in that way and to act in that way. So a lot of the people as well that I've coached, the wonderful women that I've spoken to and I've coached through different things, for them as well, it often comes up as they've lost their spark. And I think losing your spark comes into your life, into your being, when you have given your energy to so many things that don't serve you. So it might be that you give your energy to a bit of a thankless job, whether that is your actual job or a job task that you have to do, and it's getting all your energy, it's sucking it dry. And then your weekends are filled with things that you feel like you really should do, but maybe just don't light you up as much. And you've started to have all these different things in your life, which now no longer really add anything in your life other than stress, and they're draining you. And so this is why a lot of the time as well, it comes back to in my coaching, the first thing that we talk about when I speak to women who come to me for coaching is, okay, well, what joy do you have in your life right now? And that is the first thing that gets gone when you are over-promising and over-committing to duty and over-giving and overdoing. And again, I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot more in the bias of heavily used masculine traits. And that's just because that's really where I feel like most people I speak to are sat right now, to be honest. And like I said, I think that comes back to the sort of societies that we live in at the moment. And again, I can't speak for everywhere, but specifically where I am in the UK and the media that we have, and, you know, all these different things, I feel like we are taking strides in the right direction. You know, we've become a lot more mindful of well-being. We've become a lot more mindful of how being well drives better performance. And there's so much science out there as well that goes to show, like, the more that we have regular breaks and time to properly nourish our systems through food and joy and connection and activity and all these different things, is what drives higher levels of productivity and improves our performance. But what we don't want to be doing is giving all of that energy away into avenues that aren't lighting us up. And like I said, again, we all have these admin tasks or duties that we must do, and that's fine. But what we always need to remember is this balance, and it all comes back to balance. What are we doing to make sure that if we do have quite a lot of tasks or a lot of expectations, say in our job role, maybe we're a leader, you know, we've got quite a high pressure position, how are we also making sure that our downtime means that we can get into some flow? You know, maybe you're writing, maybe you're painting, maybe your flow is going to the gym or going for a run. Maybe it's literally just taking yourself for a walk to the local coffee shop and chilling the F out on your own. Or maybe it's even just sitting in complete sensory deload in a dark room, lying on your bed. But what are you doing to keep yourself in balance? So hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, give it a like, subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be doing another video very soon on my sobriety journey, which again, I think sort of plays into this doing and being and different sort of energy feels, you know. But I'll be doing more. Please keep an eye, subscribe if you would like to see more, and let me know in the comments below what resonated with you off the back of this video today. And maybe you could even put in around what you might like to do differently or more of, even, to find that balance. What is it that you need to do to find some balance with your energies? I have loved speaking to you today. Thank you so much for watching this chatty video, and I will catch you very, very soon. Thanks.